Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you all might be wondering what this is all about. This is a podcast about music, and I'm Aditya Veera, your host for today. And my show is called Stalwarts of Music, and I engage with musicians from all across the world. And I'd like to welcome you all, firstly, to Stalwarts of Music. And this is going to be my 47th episode, and I couldn't think of a better radio partner to collaborate with than Big FM India to do this particular special episode. And for those of you who aren't aware, my show also airs on Big FM Shillong and Aizawl every Sunday between 5 to 6 p.m. So if you happen to be around there, be sure to check it out. And I have a lot of interesting stuff coming up with Big FM India. So watch out for that. Speaking of my guest today, which is the highlight of this entire episode, it's none other than Mr. David Paich, who is a multi-Grammy Award and Emmy Award winning artist, who is an American singer-songwriter, record producer, best known as the co-founder of the legendary band Toto. So he's been with them for several decades now, and he's been a master at his craft, and he's been responsible for the release of several noteworthy hits that you might be aware of: Hold the Line, Rosanna, Africa, during his stint with Toto. And how many Michael Jackson fans out here? Do you all enjoy Michael Jackson? And I'm sure you would have heard his groundbreaking record, Thriller. So Mr. David Paich was pivotal and quite monumental in terms of making the rhythm arrangement in the particular album Thriller along with Mr. Quincy Jones. And he's had many accolades on several locations. He's worked with artists like George Benson, Bryan Adams, Don Henley of the Eagles, Diana Ross, and many more. And for all you movie buffs out here, people who have enjoyed Sylvester Stallone's work in First Blood, Mr. David Paich has also arranged music for First Blood, Aquaman, and several other noteworthy movies out there. So without any further ado, I'm delighted to welcome man of the hour, Mr. David Paich. He'll be joining us shortly, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
There we are. Hi.
Hi, David. Namaste. How are you?
Good. Very good. How are you?
Very well, very well. I'm not able to see you clearly. Could you possibly? Yeah, much better now. Hi, David. How are you? Which part of the world are you in right now?
I'm very good. I'm in just north of Los Angeles in a place called Santa Barbara.
Oh,
it's
wonderful.
in California. It's on the coast.
Mhm.
And it's just north of, like I said, Los Angeles, about an hour north.
Wonderful.
Yes,
wonderful.
it's very nice here.
Lovely. So let's get started with our agenda for today. And I have a couple of very interesting questions coming your way. So, David, my first question for you. Let's say that I want to be an aspiring singer-songwriter and I came to you. What is it that you'll be looking for in a potential singer-songwriter who really hasn't had that formal training or introduction towards music? So what are some of the qualities that you might identify in a potential singer-songwriter?
Well, one of the things I look for is the gift of melody.
Mhm.
And that's of main importance, to have a good melody, sense of melody, before you do anything else. The next thing is, if you're into writing poetry, try and develop your poetic sense, because poetry leads to lyric writing. So I would try getting used to rhyming some words and just jot down your ideas. Always constantly be writing. Well, I've seen writers, great songwriters, they constantly have a piece of paper and they're constantly writing down lyrical ideas. So always be writing from your heart, and don't be afraid to make up some fiction too, fantasy kind of fiction, and role playing in your songwriting. And that's what I look for, is melody and lyrics. And lyrics are very important these days. much more important than when I grew up. They were very important, but now everybody has good lyrics. So
Right.
make sure your lyrics are good, and just sing, and you'll come up with a good melody. Instead of playing the melody, try singing, and you'll find out how a melody is.
Got it. So you are opening doors for me to sort of come and enroll myself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And you
Great,
just froze on me.
great, great.
Okay.
So there are so many different facets of creativity that you personally embody, right? So there are
Uh-huh.
so many different facets. So how do they generally coexist for someone like you?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm,
You have to learn how to
mm-hmm,
balance them. And, I'm hearing music in my head all the time, but I can't always just rush to the studio and record it. So I
right.
try and remember it on piano
Mm-hmm,
or put it on a tape recorder or put it in my studio. I'll make a quick demo of something like that. And if I'm near paper, I usually, when I take my phone out and I'll jot down ideas for lyric ideas,
mm-hmm.
wherever I am. Texting on a phone makes it easier now than it used to be, and uh, you just try and enjoy the round robin of the different aspects of music, which are getting together with co-writers
Mm-hmm.
and getting to co-write with them, as well as playing. Much fun to
Mm-hmm.
play and make demos. I like
Got it.
doing.
Got it. Wonderful. It's quite a unique way, very very unique takeaway in terms of. I mean, the thing is, you make things look so very simple, right, to the other
Yeah.
person. I'm sure there's a lot of internalization that takes place, but the beauty of you as a musician, or as I mentioned, like you embody facets of being a wonderful songwriter, a composer, etc. It's the simplicities that sort of makes things look so easy for us, which is quite commendable.
Well, thank you. I try and it's a lot of fun, and it's very self-satisfying
Hmm.
for the soul,
Hmm.
and spiritually,
Hmm.
it's very, like I said, fulfilling
Right.
to do this. So that's what, uh, and it also required a lot of time training.
Correct. Correct.
I've done this for over 50 years,
Yeah.
and you start getting better at it if you keep at it every day. You
Hmm.
just have to. I still practice every day, and
Wonderful.
try and be the best version of myself that I can.
If I may ask, what's been the difference between your practice regime 40 years before versus right now? What's the change?
40 years before, I would practice 3 hours a day,
Hmm. Hmm.
classical music 7 days a week, 3 hours a day.
Lovely.
That was for my lessons
Hmm. Hmm.
piano lessons. Now I probably practice a half an hour to an hour a day to keep my technique up a little bit. My regime has lightened up a little bit as I've gotten older.
Got it. Got it. So I have a follow up question based on what I asked you earlier. For someone who
Yeah.
embodies so many facets of creative expression, what is a creative impulse for you? Is it the conversation, or is it catharsis, or is it the need to give music its form, order, and structure? What is the exact impulse that you look for, essentially?
That's a really good question. I just usually give an emotional response.
Hmm.
Uh, given here, when I hear a chord, I'll react to it. When I play a certain thing on piano, it
Hmm.
makes me do something else.
Okay.
So it's my emotional response to
Hmm.
that. It could be in a conversation.
Hmm.
I'll remember something someone says that is clever to me, or heartfelt, and try and remember that and write it down.
Hmm.
And you can't predict when the song inspiration is going to come. It can be in the shower, it can be while you're driving, it
Hmm.
can be while you're walking down the street. So it comes at different times, and you just have to react emotionally, respond emotionally to it. That's how I do it. It's very visceral.
Are you trying to say that in some senses you are more of an emotional musician than someone who is very cerebral in terms of their approach towards music? Is that what you're trying to say?
I would say so. I'm more instinctual and more, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, visceral.
Mm-hmm.
And where there's guys that get up and write every day at 9 o'clock in the morning, like
Right.
Paul Simon, very disciplined. I'm
Right.
not. I'm not disciplined enough, and I should be.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I try and write every day or so. It's good for me to do. It's a good practice to get in the habit of writing your journals. If anybody's out there, take
Mm-hmm.
poetry classes or take English lit, and get as much vocabulary as you can.
Who'd be on top of your list in terms of poets that you might want to recommend to the people of India out here?
Poets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, E. E. Cummings
Mm-hmm.
is a poet.
Okay.
Uh, Emily Dickinson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, you know, Leonard Cohen is a
Oh wow.
songwriter, but he
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
writes poetry
Right.
too. I like Leonard Cohen. I like Leonard Cohen a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Bob
Yeah.
Dylan, he's a
Yeah. Yeah.
poet and
Right.
a great lyricist. Bernie Taupin
Mm-hmm.
with Elton John, I think is a great poet as well.
Correct.
So those are the top of my list. And Paul Simon.
Correct. Speaking of Leonard Cohen, I recently picked up a book of his called Beautiful Losers. Have you checked it out?
No, I haven't.
You should totally check
I
it out.
should.
Quite
Is
an
it
intriguing
good?
title. Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. It's got
Yeah.
like a very different take towards his perspective of things. In a very poetic
Uh-huh.
way, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a great read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I named the second album. Toto named the second album Hydra, which
Mhm.
was I got from a Leonard Cohen poem.
Oh, wonderful. If I'm not mistaken, Hydra is the album which has got White Sister on it, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Thanks. The process of awareness of self gets translated into a process of communication, and the communication has to be received by the audience on the other end. If we were
Yeah.
to consider different musical forms, the reception is of a different kind, right? Music for films is as much as an industrial product, and it also involves self-expression for a musician like you. Have you had trouble reconciling these two?
Um, no, it's difficult to balance
Mhm,
those things.
mhm.
And your first question was again, which was the first part
The
that
first
you
question,
asked me?
yeah, the first question was a perspective of music that's being represented in different forms, and people receive it differently,
Oh, right.
right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, Quincy Jones is the one that said you can't have music without the science of broadcasting it. So there's so many formats today and
Mhm.
stuff that people can get music over social media and
Right.
everything, and it's good because it takes music all over the world and helps communicate it, as well as trying to write different kinds of music. I
Mhm.
try and write when I write music, not just be limited to rock and roll. Sometimes I'll write an R&B, rhythm and blues kind of thing, or
Mhm.
sometimes I'll write something that's very soft and classical oriented. But
Got it.
so it's to stay diverse in your communication and to try and keep up with what's going on. I know they're doing streaming now,
Mhm.
and you can basically have access to music all over the world. Everybody can wear a watch or have an iPhone can hear
Yeah.
music. So the technology, music combined with science is the answer.
I do agree with you. Technology has made things more accessible, and we are able to connect in a medium or in a platform because of technology. But do you think that today's generation values music because of the fact that it's easily accessible? What's your take towards that?
Um, I think it's probably relative. I think kids today value music.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so much more of it,
Mm-hmm.
and they can go through it faster. I think it's a little more disposable than it was back in. I think people really worshiped records when they got found an album that they wanted, a rare album. I
Right.
think that was made it more unique. It was like holding a painting. If you had the only version of the Mona Lisa, people would get albums of people, and they would just take pride in possessing those albums
Right.
because they were so magical and rare. You didn't always couldn't just get an album here or this music. We didn't have online
Mm-hmm.
back in the day.
Correct.
So I think that people are more. I think people are more used to being able to get what they want quicker now.
Got it.
Then so it makes it less valuable to me when you
Mm-hmm.
have that much access to it. So I have mixed feelings about it.
Got it. Got it. Fair enough. In your compositions, your songwriting, your persona and image, you have embodied the notion of love, that of romantic love in some ways for some people. How important has that continued to be as an emotion to cherish and nurture, perhaps, in a lot of positive and affirmative ways, not just the lack of it, but in terms of the blossoming?
Yes. When I think of love songs and that have come out of Toto, I think of Steve Lukather, my
Right.
guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote "I'll Be Over You" and "It
Yeah.
Won't Hold You Back," which are two great.
Yeah.
The ending of love, or
Mm-hmm.
or the breakup of love,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he really showed how you can a relationship can blossom and then it can end, and then you can re-blossom version of the songwriter
Right.
for love songs. I'm kind of I always write about something love, but it always has some kind of conflict in it. Either
Okay.
the boy's too shy to meet the girl, or something prevents him from establishing the relationship. And so it gets a little twisted sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think love is a great theme that will be uh, uh, forever existing
Mm-hmm.
and blossoming lyrically throughout the music business.
But I feel like you mentioned, your songs have that mystery factor, which makes it very
Yeah.
interesting, and it sort of develops the curiosity within the audience, in terms of learning
Yeah.
more and sort of relating to it. So I think
Yeah.
that's a very beautiful take, the way you've sort of molded it. That's very
Oh,
interesting. Yeah.
Steely Dan has been a set guidelines
Hmm.
for a lot of people, and we
Right.
try and unveil the lyrics or peel the onion, as they say. You know what I mean? One at a time. So it kind of leads you on a little journey.
Got it.
Hopefully,
Got it.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That goes outside your house. I
Hmm.
like to live in a little more world where it's a little more role playing in my lyrics. So I go back and forth between personal experience and just using artistic license to create lyrics.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let's set music aside for a minute and let's talk about
Okay.
life in general. As a
Okay.
musician, you have a larger body of work that you've put out for a very long period of time, and there is a perception of David Paich, the human being, based on your work. So I would like to understand, is there a parallel between the real David Paich and the work that speaks of it?
Again, I would say I try and yes, there is, but I try and balance my life where I have a life outside of music.
Hmm.
Where I have a family. I've been married 37 years, and I have a
Hmm.
daughter that is a music producer. She produces music for video games,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
so I'm involved with her, and um, but I have other things I like doing: riding bikes, swimming,
Hmm.
and walking, and planting in the working in the garden a little
Oh,
bit.
okay.
And so I try and keep up, so it's not just I used to back when I was younger. It would be 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Hmm.
music, music, music. But now I've learned to balance it
Got
as I
it.
get older.
Got it. Speaking of gardening, have you ever tried bonsai? Do you like that concept of gardening?
I do. I haven't tried that. No.
Okay.
I think my daughter has though.
All right. All right. Wonderful.
What is that? Is that planting of a bonsai tree?
Yeah. I mean, bonsai plants are essentially,
Oh yeah.
the art of it. There's a certain way of sort of
Oh, there's
not.
a certain art. No,
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah.
ask my daughter about that. Yeah.
All right. All right.
I think she planted one. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. So, do you essentially work with a sense of destiny, which has like a predetermined role for you? And has your life turned out the way you thought it would 20 or 30 years back?
Um, I don't. I think that destiny has a little bit of part to do
Hmm.
with what I'm all about.
Hmm.
I think that I've chosen my own destiny here
Okay.
and have tried to make the right decision at the crossroads and choose what I'm doing here. So uh, I'm not truly a believer in my destiny,
Hmm.
but um, I think that I do have a certain amount of gift and luck that's been involved with my choices.
Okay.
Um, uh, my life has turned out way beyond my expectations. I
Hmm.
never expected to get quite this far. I always wanted to just have a hit record and play piano for sessions, be a session player, and kind of go on that way. And this is they always say, be careful what you wish for. And all of a sudden, when you get success and you start selling a lot of records and everything, it's a good feeling that you communicate to audiences and that you're whatever musical uh, uh, elements we've given the people,
Right.
it's resonated to the masses, but which
Hmm.
means just as far as being able to communicate. And I think that's a good feeling that I have that we've sold like over 40 million records,
Right.
and that's a good feeling that many people out there are interested in what we have to say.
Right. So has the journey been pleasant so far till date?
It's not been without ups and downs,
Okay.
but it's settling in pretty good right now. Toto's doing pretty good. They're
Hmm.
going to be touring with a band called Journey.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Yeah.
they're going to be touring with Journey in arenas in
Hmm.
the United States.
Okay.
So they did that last year as well
Hmm.
and played to nearly 500,000 people on these tours.
Hmm.
And so Toto's doing pretty good right now. And
Okay.
like I said, we've been not without our losses. We lost a brother,
Yeah.
our drummer Jeff, way
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
when he was very young. We lost his brother Mike Porcaro,
Right.
but the band has spirit, and Steve Lukather's still at the helm
Yeah.
with Joseph Williams.
Right.
And I occasionally fly out
Hmm.
to certain cities and play with the band still because I'm their musical director that
Right.
helps with rehearsals,
Yeah. Yeah.
which are very easy and fun.
But how are you doing in terms of health? Are you doing fine now? Are you
I'm
doing
doing a
much
lot
better?
better. I went through a bad patch about a
Right.
year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I had trouble with the road.
Hmm.
The road, we were in the cold dead of winter up in
Right.
Scandinavia, and I was just suffering from fatigue and exhaustion, and
Hmm.
a little bit of anxiety and depression as well.
Oh no.
And but I'm doing a lot better now. And
Okay.
uh, thank you for asking.
I'm glad you're back on the road, and we're
Yeah.
really looking forward to hear some more musical wonders coming out very
Well,
soon.
thank you. Me too. So am I.
You've had interactions with Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney on the girl is mine is mine. You were the great sort of
Uh-huh.
trinity in terms
Yeah.
of arranging the rhythm section along with Mr. Quincy Jones for them, right? So there is a new generation of arrangers and composers who are coming up globally in different parts of the world, and there are many who are scattered in different continents, right? So what kind of satisfaction do you feel about the future of pop music that you helped spawn?
Well, I thank you for giving me credit for helping spawn that.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's really it's really exciting that so many composers, like I follow film composers a lot, that they're for all the different countries in the world. There's film composers, and when they're doing films now, it's very much bordering on sound design and popular music as well, integrated into it.
Right.
Like we see Hans Zimmer do a score.
Correct.
I mean, he pulls from all over. His resources are all around the world, and I think that keeps the sound very diverse. And I think there's a future for composers out there. I think they found it in either songwriting for an artist or from composing for movies and TV and stuff. So I think it's a bright future for young composers who just need to find themselves and find their own voice.
Okay. What is more satisfying for you? Is it working on a recording that can be crafted well over a period of time, or is it a live performance?
Good question. There's nothing as satisfying as the live performance when you're there with an audience. When you have 10,000 people in front of you and you're communing with the audience, they give you energy and you feed off that energy, you know? But at the same time, I love making a demo. It's the first chance when I have to realize what I'm doing is a record. When I just use a drum machine and myself playing keyboards, bass, and guitar, and I can do a lot of the instruments in my studio, is to do that very quick mock-up blueprint that you make when you first have a song in your head and you're first making it, because it almost becomes realized. You can almost hear the whole thing in your head when you make the demo. At least I can.
Right.
But then it comes the real icing on the cake is the with the musicians. When you have great musicians that bring in their performances, such as Steve Lukather on guitar, Joseph Williams singing, it reaches a height that you never imagined. So it even peaks that, it's really the Everest of the occasions, is to hear a record totally realized, finished, when it's mixed well and has all the elements on it.
We have a lot of interesting viewers in India who are interested to know some interesting anecdotes during your time with Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. Do you have some highlights that you could possibly share with our Indian audience?
I'm trying to think of something I could share. No, I could just tell you Michael Jackson was a perfectionist. And one time I was playing for him and I let a mistake go by, that a little error, and he didn't say anything. So I stopped the tape and said, I'm a perfectionist too. And we need to redo that part right there. And so he got a big smile on his face and we became immediate friends after that, because he knew that I took as much pride in my work as he did.
Lovely. Quite commendable, your work ethic and your approach towards handling the situation.
Yeah.
Very commendable. For an artist, from the time one starts learning music, it's continuity, it's evolution, it's a lot of growth and exploration. In the sense that you find sometimes that musicians or artists kind of tend to have different aspirations towards their music at certain point, and there is a lot of change that's involved, right? So we definitely want to be better, like you mentioned, and more fulfilled in terms of what we are doing. And at this point, you're as young as a 60-year-old person. And what are some of the inadequacies that you see in yourself, which you want to crack in the next 10 years?
I hope to get better at my lyric writing. I'm always trying to better my lyrics.
Right.
I'm trying to get more interesting music to make longer statements, musical statements that aren't just short cookie cutter type of songs like they did in the past. And just trying to better myself as a keyboard player and as a songwriter.
And I also wanted to know, it's a very basic question. Does it require that you need to be a good human being to make good music?
Well, you know, there are different thoughts on that. You know, some
Mhm,
people may say some of the greatest music was made by people that were terrible human beings, but I think that the real beautiful songs
mhm,
have to have a beautiful soul to begin with,
mhm.
to register and to communicate that. So, you know, I'm talking about when you hear an Elton John song or
Right.
a Joni Mitchell song or a Paul McCartney song. Those are all beautiful songs written by people who have beautiful hearts. So I would like to believe that, you know.
Got it. Let's talk about your new album, Forgotten Toys. Let's get the big picture. What should people know about Forgotten Toys?
That I'm the singer. I'm singing on most of the cuts except for one cut, which
Hmm.
I shared with a co-writer, Michael Sherwood. But
Hmm.
I'm singing on the cuts, and also playing,
Hmm.
and that it's not Toto. It's my version of my songs with friends of mine and
Okay.
other great musicians that I brought in to work with me on solo stuff. That was kind of a little bit off the beaten path for Toto, but worked out great for my record.
Wonderful. And is there a certain song that's your favorite in the particular album, or each song's
Well,
distinct?
I love them all like children, but
Hmm.
there's one I love Queen Charade
Hmm.
because it's real reckless and
Hmm.
cavalier,
Okay.
and it's very loose. You know what I mean? But uh, again, I made it an EP because I loved every song on the record. I wanted people to love all the songs too.
Got it. Got it. What are some of the spiritual techniques that you embody?
Spiritual techniques.
Hmm.
Um, well, you know, I try praying
Hmm.
sometimes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Praying for world peace and
Hmm.
try and pray for to finish a song, help me with better lyrics,
Hmm.
and because I think that there's a higher power that definitely channels through me
Hmm.
to make music. I know that I'm talented, but I'm not as talented as I seem on record because I get a lot of help from to me my you know from God. So uh, that helps me out, and I try and again live a good life, clean life, and I just keep praying every day.
Wonderful. So you also medit? Do you also meditate?
I'm just starting to get into that. I try and meditate. My daughter says if you're concentrating on your breathing, you're meditating. So I've been concentrating, starting just with breathing exercises, and hopefully I'll soon graduate and start doing more.
I mean, I feel the eager to learn is there throughout a lifetime, and I can see that in you, right? Even
Yeah.
if age is no factor for someone to stop learning.
Oh, that's for sure. You know,
Right.
back when you were talking about meditation, I
Mhm,
think the when I became aware of meditation
mhm,
and back in the day was when the Beatles came out with "Within You, Without You,"
mhm.
and they brought Ravi Shankar into our
Correct.
world. I
Correct.
think that all of a sudden people became aware of meditation because plus my mom used to have a book beside her bed from Khalil Gibran called The Prophet, and
Mhm.
so she started getting into meditation, and that's why I first learned about it.
Got it. Speaking of yoga, I happen to be at the epicenter of it. So I'm from a city called Coimbatore, which has got like a wonderful yoga foundation by Sadhguru. So it's called the Isha Yoga Center, where
Isha, you
that's
okay?
right, that's right. So we are at the epicenter of that whole culture right now.
Oh, great, fantastic.
So if you happen to come down to India, when are you coming to India?
Oh boy, I've got to talk to my tour managers and my
Uh-huh.
the travel of the the tour promoters and brokers stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
I'd love to go to India. I've heard nothing but great things about it from
Right.
people that come over there. You know, so look for us sometime in the next couple of years. You know,
Mhm. Looking forward to that, and I'd be happy to host you, show you around different parts of India, And
I'd love for you to give me the tour of India. Your India, but your India,
right. I mean, it's so diverse in the sense that we've got like so many different musical forms in each
Oh
state.
yeah.
It is so distinct, and it'll take more than a lifetime for us to even like explore deep dive into something like that.
I bet. And the
Yeah.
musicians there are so fabulous.
Right.
It's
Right.
incredible, the music that's come out of India. And I like it,
Correct. In the interest of time, I'd like to get into our last segment of the agenda, which is
Okay.
the most interesting part, which is called the rapid fire segment. And I'll be shooting across very interesting questions where you don't have to think too much. You can be quite spontaneous with your answers.
Okay.
Here's my first
Okay.
question for you, David. What is that one song that always makes you cry?
Uh, it's a song called Goodbye from Elton John.
Mhm.
That's my answer.
On the contrary, what is your favorite guilty pleasure song?
I would say Brown Sugar from the Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. What is your favorite cuisine?
Cuisine?
Mhm.
I'd have to say Mexican food.
Okay. Have you ever tried Indian food?
I have. Tandoori chicken? Sure. I love that too.
Great.
I should have said that first.
Yeah, I was expecting that, but that's all right.
Yeah.
If you had an opportunity to put together an all-star pop rock band, who'd be in it?
Boy, it was just like I think I'd have Greg Fillinganes in it,
Oh,
the
wow.
keyboard player.
Great choice. Yeah.
Greg Fillinganes.
Yep.
I think Nathan East would be in it.
Killer.
I think Steve Jordan would be in it. My
Mhm.
friend drummer, who's in the Rolling Stones now,
Right.
and that's my band.
Wonderful. And did you mention yourself? Wouldn't you be
And
part of it?
Joseph need. Yeah, I'd be on Hammond organ.
That's gonna sound fab.
So I love playing him. Yeah,
Got
that
it.
would sound great.
Yeah.
A good band for Eric Clapton.
What are the top 5 must-haves for any performer while touring, according to you?
Oh boy, you must have a sense of humor.
Mhm.
You must have your life organized on your phone.
Mhm.
You have to get plenty of rest.
Mhm.
Again, try and keep it in perspective because you're just a regular person. Even though you have thousands of people cheering for you every night, you're still a human being on the inside and have to treat everybody as such with nothing but love and kindness.
Lovely. What are some of the top 3 qualities of a good teacher that you personally embody right now for yourself?
Well, I'm really not a great teacher.
Mhm.
I'm a student. There's an art to teaching because my daughter has a master's degree in teaching, and she was and so I think you have to have patience. You have to have commitment. I think teaching is a mission, and I think that you have to be very kind, to be a good teacher.
Lovely. I have one last question for you, which is a custom in all of my interviews,
Yes.
and I ask all of my distinguished guests this very question. So, David, here's the question. Down in the distant horizon, what would you want to be remembered as?
As a good husband and father and a musician.
Great. All 3 great qualities
Thank you.
of
That was awesome. That was awesome. I loved it.
great. So this
I
particular
hope you got, I hope you got what you wanted.
Yes, very much indeed. This interview will additionally
Okay.
air on Big FM Shillong and Azol in the next couple of days. And I'll be sure to share the link with you. And it's also going to be part of my podcast series, Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera, which will be
Oh,
out on
great.
Spotify,
Oh, great.
iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. So I'll also share the link for the same with you. So
that's fantastic.
You can check it out once it's out. Before we conclude, I'd love for you to give a concluding note for the people of India before we conclude the session.
Yes. I just want to thank all of this is David Paich, our friends, families, and fans around the world, especially in India. We're very grateful and we're very blessed to have you as listeners and fans. And we hope to come there very soon to play for your wonderful country. Thank you.
Thanks, David, for the privilege. So as we continue to celebrate the dozen marvelous musical pieces, the showmanship that you've displayed in terms of your songwriting, your ability as a composer, it sort of displays a very rich and intense life that a lot of us sort of await. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a great blessing and an honor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.